the practice that I want to talk about, a practice that I developed long ago, living in New York, grew out of the desire to be in the sacred space, the desire to be encountering the sacred. Now here I am in Manhattan, living in the East Village, and I found myself struggling against this, urban atmosphere. No, I really want to live somewhere that's sacred, And eventually it occurred to me, well, sacralize the place, right? That's the answer. I really liked when Jenny Pell was talking about the interaction with a space where you lose your hair and your nails and your skin, etc., and you take in the food and the air, and you become this sort of inner-outer merging with the space, because that's what a lot of my practice was really about. And for me, the place where sacred and meaning often resonates is in my dream life. I have a particularly vivid dream life, and always have. So this practice, starting from the desire for practice, finding the place where I had meaning, and then I found some practices that I really liked and sort of cobbled up together. One of them was based on the dream time practices of Australian Aboriginal people, and in a quick condensation of it, when you are born an Australian Aboriginal person, you are put into a dreaming, often a couple of different kinds of dreaming, and you are taught the songs and the path of your dreaming. Now what dreaming is, according to the mythology, the prototypical beings came out of the earth during the dream of the creator. So the honey ants emerged from the ground, and the honey ant walked a path, and from that movement, the sleeping here formed a hollow, coming over here and meeting a wallaby and having a battle kicked up these hills, going through these mountains made a mountainous path. They formed the landscape. So the actions and the interactions of all these prototypical beings are what actually form the landscape. So when you're being taught the song and the walk of your dreaming, you're being taught the song and the walk that your prototypical being took. So if I'm a honey ant dreaming, I'm taught a song about sleeping there in that hollow. I'm taught a song about fighting with the wallaby. I'm taught a song about going through that riverbed. And then as I take the same walk that the honey ant took in this original time and sing the song, so there's the notes for, okay, there's the rocks over there. There's notes for those rocks. And then here's the path over here. There's notes for this path. Here's the hollow, there's notes for this hollow. I sing all of those. Those recreate the land around me as I walk through them. What a walkabout is, we've all heard of a walkabout. What a walkabout is often a puberty ritual, or sometime during your life is walking your songline and re-singing the earth into existence. And by the way, when you're walking a songline, you are, as an Aboriginal person, you are actually within the dream time. There's an overlay of original sacred time onto this time. And to move from this here into, I'm still this here, but into sacred space is the action of the practice. So that as a sort of a basis for practice. And then the other was art of memory. Art of memory is an ancient practice begun with the Greeks and really taken up by the Romans. And art of memory is a means of remembering a long list of things, a speech, what have you. And what you do in an art of memory practice is you create what is called a memory palace. And this is an imaginal space that's made up partly of a space that you already know, your own home, a library, whatever it is, and that you partly make up. And you learn this space so intimately that it's like your own apartment. And if anyone had moved something while you were away and you got home, you would say, oh, who moved that? You know your memory palace this well. And when you're trying to remember something, you put certain points from the list or the speech or what have you in different places in your memory palace associated with striking features of the house, a statue or architectural elements or whatever. And then you walk through the memory palace as you're giving a talk. And you see the point, and that reminds you of what you wanted to say. So it's this, basically it's this imaginal space, but that you physically move through as a way of recalling. So the practice that I formulated was a dream practice where I would wake up in the morning and I would remember whatever dream I had had, and I would write it in my dream journal, and then I would go downstairs, lived at Avenue A on 5th Street, and I would walk through my neighborhood. I decided what the boundaries of my neighborhood were, and then as soon as I saw the right place, I just let intuition guide me. I would weave the dream into the architecture. So breaking up the dream into sort of bite-sized pieces. Okay, here's the superhero siblings. Okay, now they're going to have a fight on elephants. Okay, now I'm in between them. Whatever it is. And I would weave each part into the architecture of my neighborhood so that the glance of my eye over the natural run of the architecture of the building, whatever it is, would retell the story with the associated images. Now, over the course of this practice, of course, my neighborhood became layered with my dreams. It's still true. If I go back to the East Village and I'm walking along and I'm like, oh yeah, right, there's that great dream with the Peter Max sailboats and the sharks and the women who were flying, or what have you. So it was this process of externalizing what was, for me, the sacred inner space, or this place that had meaning, and superimposing it onto the external world and creating a sacred space for myself by creating this practice that evoked what mattered to me. Now, over time, this practice has changed shape. I've come to understand a lot of other things as part of its lineage, the lineage of this particular tradition, if you can say that it goes, the lineage starts here and sort of goes backwards. Things like Tibetan Buddhist lucid dream practices, which I undertook and then wove into that practice. Or the Sufi ideas of imagination as a faculty, much like the Australian Aboriginals, there's this idea that there's the imaginal world that's sitting over top of this world, and that the imaginal faculty is what gives you access to it. You know, now I'm here in this different space. Or the practices of the situationists, you know, city walks and the derif. All of this has grown to be part of what my own particular practice means. And that practice has shifted a little bit now to writing about the practice, to trying to understand it, and then all of the issues that come with that kind of grappling. Of course, one of the problems in a self-crafted practice is often those places where you have to grapple. Self-crafted practices often don't bring to the rise as much things that are difficult for you because you picked them. But if you let it go long enough and you really let it take its own shape, then I think inevitably you're going to find those places where you really have to, you know, come up against it and, you know, find those rubbing against, they say in Zen. So my current form of the practice, which has been writing, is quite challenging for me, and thus the practice is manifested in that shape.